Sure. So I am Timote Uasike. I work for Blade HQ. I'm in charge of business development over at their wonderful facility. We're at Blade Show 2022. Leroy, we talked last year. Leroy caught me again today and said, "Hey, I need you to say some things." So we're here. No, but I'm excited to be here. Blade Show's definitely been interesting, a lot different from last year. I think last year you actually interviewed me in a booth over there that was empty, and it was interesting because there was pretty low attendance. This year, I think Friday was really heavy, Saturday was really good, and obviously Sunday you can hear everybody clearing out. But yeah, we're excited to be here. Saw some really good things. This year, unfortunately, I spent a lot more time in the booth, but I was able to spend some time with some of our vendors, meet some cool custom makers, some new guys that have kind of broke into the scene that are doing really well. One of the fun things to watch was obviously people line up outside the door. If you were here, you saw the lines at the entrance and obviously at the backside where I think there were guys actually here camping out for like 2 or 3 days. But no, things are great. I think the industry is strong. I think consumerism is obviously up across the board. I think some vendors are seeing some plateaus, but it's still healthy compared to like what we saw in 2017, 2018, 2019. 2020, 2021 were obviously kind of anomalies for everyone. I think consumer spending was definitely up. International travel was down, so I think you saw a lot of that play into the fact of like what we saw in the market. But definitely strong. I think people are buying more now than ever. There's some cool things coming out. I don't know if people saw them. Some of the guys I saw in the other room have done some really cool things. The other room, I think if you haven't gotten to it, you need to visit it. There's a lot of really underutilized makers or people that aren't really well known coming up in that area. Obviously doing some other things with titanium that's a little bit new, lightweight folders, things like that. I think Oz Machine Group is one. I'm not sure if it's Oz or OZ, but they were a hot ticket. I think they showed up with I don't know how many knives, but they sold out both days. The line was crazy. No, I think things are good, but yeah, I don't know. What'd you see, Leroy? What else do you need?
How would you think the American companies are doing now?
I think they're very strong. I think you're seeing a play for more American-made products across the board. Some of the things that I'm noticing where that becomes problematic is, capacity issues across the board. Everyone's selling so many of their products, which is a great thing, but you only have so many machines and so much manpower, obviously, and you're dealing with people with illness and all sorts of things. Supplier issues as far as, like supply, whether it be materials, whether it be steel, handle materials, hardware, things like that. That's where I feel like that's the big tie-up, right? There's only so many machines in America and so many people that are willing to do so much work. So, yeah, I think it's strong, but obviously very limited, really. But, I mean, we'd love to see more American-made products. It's just finding the right people to work with and finding the right shop. I think the knife industry is a special industry where I think it becomes a lot more complicated than people anticipate or have thought in the past. They always think that it's just 2 handles and a blade, and that's not necessarily the trick. I mean, you've seen a lot of people step into the industry and really struggle with tolerances and designs and things like that. So yeah, the knife industry isn't just something you can throw money at and go after it. I mean, it takes a real craftsman, somebody that's really skilled in what they do and a wealth of knowledge. And that's where a lot of these older guys that have been here at this show for, however long it's been around have really stepped up, and I think have taken some of these guys under their wings and started to really help them produce some things stateside. And you're seeing a lot more high quality products come out of the U.S. than you saw in years past. And that's a great thing. We like to see that. So we're happy to help support those makers however we can. And that's not to discredit anybody that's, overseas manufacturing. I think, Enrique Pena is a great example of a guy who's, done a great job of utilizing overseas manufacturing and really playing to the consumers, but also coming with a very high quality product at a very reasonable price point. So, it's great. I think it's great to have all walks of life in the industry. As long as we're kind to each other and have good relationships, I think we can count on this industry to continue to grow. So it's something that Blade HQ is very happy about, and we want to be a big part of that. So we'll do whatever we can to help.
It's your business, I guess, to follow the trends.
Sure.
What are you kind of seeing right now? What are you guys trying to pick up and take advantage of and all that?
Sure. I think there's a lot of stuff, really. You're seeing, I mean, obviously the big thing, I think the big buzz, and we talked about it in a few interviews today or yesterday with like Tim Reeve was a great example. We asked him about Magna Cut, right? The steel trend is something that has really stepped up. You had Laren Thomas involved in that development. So you had a guy who, comes from a very knowledgeable background as far as like knife steel and also knife assembly and manufacturing. And he's developed this steel that's supposed to be the next big thing. I think Tim Reeve, if I quote him right, said that this is one of the first steels that he feels actually qualifies as a super steel, which is a huge thing. So MagnaCut tends to be the major trend right now. Composite handles, anything to get the traditional models lighter. Spyderco has been transitioning a bunch of their models to lightweights. If you had the opportunity to go by their prototype case, you saw a lot of that. The other thing that we've seen over the last couple of years, I think you talked about it last year, was traditional slip joints. That's made a huge resurgence, but also the modern traditional slip joints. Chris Taylor is a great example. I don't think he was here today, but he's doing some really cool stuff. And then you have the traditional guys like Jared Oser, Enrique Pena, the Texas Row. Those guys are doing some amazing work. Oz Machine Group, I talked about those guys earlier. I think they're out of Ohio. Don't quote me on that, but I think they are. They've done a really cool. I think it's the Roosevelt is what it's called. It's a really cool titanium folder, very minimal, but also substantial as far as like blade length and width and heft. So I think you should be on the lookout for those guys because they're gonna come up pretty heavy. Another guy that I really like, his name is, I believe it's Laren Maxon. And sorry, Laren, if I got that wrong. I believe he's apprenticing under under Nick Swan, and his brand is Elm Knives. And Laren is a very high quality maker, makes some cool fixed blades, some folders that I think he raffled off today, utilizing some cool materials. Typically you see these big titanium folders and people are trying to, I think, move away from that, not only because of cost, but also because of, supply issues from material standpoints. So you're really seeing people try to utilize other things that are more readily available, and I really enjoy that. So like rag micarta, different like denim micartas, things like that tend to be in. So I think we're looking for a high quality material that comes in at a reasonable price. You've seen a huge transition in the market where people were buying $600, $700, $800 production folders from titanium to whatever else it may be, and now people are really shooting for that $350 and under price point. Is what we're seeing on our end outside of the custom market. And there's a lot of people that are happy to provide them. And so, keep your eyes out for people like, Spyderco obviously, but some of the smaller brands that are coming up. Superlative is a collaboration that Jared Oser and Enrique Pena and Javi Garcia put together. I believe it's made overseas with Riot, but I mean, that's a hot brand. It's Jared and Enrique and Javi's brains that have came together and put up a really, really intricate and detail-oriented product that has a lot of thought, but also has a lot of traditional nuances, right? Like your grandfather's pocket knife. So kind of cool designs. But yeah, I think that's a lot of what we see now is renditions of older product kind of re-brought to life. It's kind of like the clothing trends, right? We see some of this older stuff from like the 70s and 80s making a resurgence. And so I think that's kind of in the knife industry as well. People are trying to pay homage to some of these traditional makers that we've seen kind of come in and are getting older now and taking a step back. So it's kind of some of the stuff I'm seeing, and I really enjoy seeing it.
Okay, it looks like the show's over.
Yeah.
So how did you enjoy the show?
I loved it. I had a really good time. We had the opportunity to interview a lot of people. We had to do, we're able to do a little shopping, obviously. And then we actually hosted Bally Comp, which is a competition for ballad songs outside this year, and it was bigger than ever. We actually had, a great panel of judges. One of them included Henry Wu, who's the president, I believe the president of Blade Show. And so I think he got to see a really good idea of the new consumers that are coming up. A lot of these guys, we hear people talking, they have a lot of mixed feelings about the ballad song community, but what they don't understand, I think, and it's important for people to understand, is that a lot of these young men and women are buying knives that are $1,200 and playing with them and dropping them on the ground. And this is really, like, I think the future of our community, that these are the kids that'll be paying $2,000, for a knife design from a custom maker that they're going to cherish and probably pass on later down the road. So it's important for people to understand that, like, that is the new generation and that they are capable of picking up where we left off. So it's different, but it's cool.
All right, always fantastic.
Hey.